All right, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack a truly bizarre piece of local news that actually exposes a massive, invisible geopolitical war going on right under our noses. I mean, on the surface, this just looks like a minor zoning dispute in Southeast Asia, right? But trust me, this isn't just about real estate. This is about the apps on your phone, the servers holding your data, and who actually gets to write the rules of our future. As we dig into the sources today, we are going to see how a modern sovereign kingdom is drawing a very hard line in the sand against a rising digital empire and why the outcome of this clash directly impacts your everyday digital life.
So the inciting incident here is a sudden, highly aggressive crackdown by Malaysia on a Silicon Valley experiment back in July 2026. Basically, a highly publicized tech commune known as the Network School, founded by American tech entrepreneur Balaji Srinivasan, had set up shop in Forest City, Johor. Now, if you know Forest City, you know it's a massive, highly ambitious, but historically underpopulated megaproject. So you'd think an influx of wealthy tech elites arriving to revitalize the area would be a totally welcome economic boost, right? But almost overnight, the local authorities moved in with zero hesitation, treated this commune like a severe national threat, and completely shut it down. So the big question is, why would a developing tech hub abruptly expel a highly lucrative community of tech elites?
To figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the Forest City Spore. 2, the Parasitic Empire. 3, the Mechatronic Fork. 4, the 1776 Playbook. And finally, 5, the Sovereign Proxy War.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Forest City Spore and Malaysia's sudden crackdown.
The sheer speed of this crackdown is what makes it so fascinating. It all began on a Sunday, July 14th, with rumors that Israeli nationals had entered the country using secondary passports to attend this school. Now, in Malaysia, a country that staunchly supports Palestine, forbidding Israeli citizens from entering is a matter of strict national policy. The local authorities didn't just issue a warning or a fine, though. By Friday, July 17th, the Iskandar Patiri City Council aggressively revoked the organization's business and advertising licenses, slapped a stop business notice on the door, and physically sealed off the premises. The tension escalated so rapidly that by the very next day, the founder had suspended operations entirely and announced a hasty move to Kazakhstan. This single, uncompromising enforcement action put a massive 500 million ringgit tech expansion completely on hold. Think about that for a second. It is incredibly rare for a developing municipality to look at $500 million ringgit in potential investment and just slam the door. But Malaysia made a clear calculation here. Their national sovereignty, border control, and rule of law were mathematically and culturally far more valuable than Silicon Valley cash. They were perfectly willing to let hundreds of millions of investment dollars walk right out the door to maintain their absolute regulatory control.
You see, the Network School wasn't just some innocent co-working space for digital nomads. It was actually the physical beachhead for a movement aiming for diplomatic recognition. To put it simply, the network state ideology is this concept of creating an online community, kind of like a massive Discord server or a social network, that eventually buys land and declares itself a completely new sovereign country governed entirely by tech corporations. Malaysia didn't view this as a business shutting down an office. They viewed it as a high-tech colonial scheme. They recognized that this movement, sometimes termed tech Zionism, was openly seeking to replace existing sovereign nations with corporate-run territories.
Moving on to Section 2, the Parasitic Empire. We're going to look at tech feudalism and indirect takeover.
To really understand the severity of this threat, we can actually look at a brilliant, if slightly terrifying, biological metaphor, the zombie ant fungus studied at Penn State. This complex fungus invades an ant's body, forming a 3D network that completely surrounds its muscle fibers. And the absolute horror of this parasite is that it acts like a puppeteer pulling strings. It manipulates the host's physical behavior perfectly, all while leaving the actual brain completely uninfected and just trapped inside. If we map this onto geopolitics, sovereign governments are the brain, right? The physical infrastructure, the roads, the servers, the power grids, those are the muscles. And the encroaching tech elites operate exactly like that fungus.
The tech elite strategy isn't to outright declare war on the brain. Instead, they use immense capital to bypass traditional democratic norms and directly control the muscles, the very infrastructure a nation relies on. This is what we call foreign operational capture. It's seizing control of a country's operational capacity without ever having to fight its military. By instantly revoking those licenses, Malaysia actively refused to let this parasitic spore incubate. They recognized the transhumanist tech elite strategy and surgically removed the parasite before it could seize control of their local infrastructure.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Mechatronic Fork.
and the geopolitical crossroads of our digital future. We are literally standing at a massive crossroads right now regarding our digital future. Path A is what's called the opaque monoculture. This is where you own nothing and rent everything. It's an elite-managed, global surveillance state funded by billionaires, where massive, closed-off systems subjugate humanity under this ideology of transhumanism and tech feudalism. Path B, on the other hand, is FOSS, or Free, Libre, and Open Source Software. This is the path where you actually own your code. It's a world built by rebel developers offering a structural escape route from centralized control through decentralized peer-to-peer systems that literally anyone can audit and verify.
So thinkers from completely different walks of life are ringing the alarm bells here. Damien Walter, a science fiction critic, and Kyle McLean-Smith, a systems architect, might disagree fiercely on tactics, but they both see the exact same threat. Our digital future is currently being hardwired by a powerful, encroaching empire. The battle lines are being drawn in code and law right in front of us, between those trying to achieve a sort of counterfeit immortality through tech monopolies and those fighting to defend basic human liberty.
Let's jump into Section 4, the 1776 Playbook. This is history's mirror image of proxy warfare. So, how on earth do you fight a massive, decentralized digital empire? Well, we actually have to look back to a literal spy thriller from the 1770s for the blueprint. When the American colonies rebelled against the highly centralized British Empire, the colonial Minutemen had basically zero supplies. So France stepped in with this incredible cloak and dagger operation. French Foreign Minister Vergennes and a playwright turned spy named Pierre de Beaumarchais set up a dummy corporation called Roderick Hortalez & Company. Through this fake trading front, they secretly funneled a massive black market arsenal. I'm talking hundreds of cannons and tons of gunpowder, straight to the American rebels. Without this influx, the revolution likely would have completely collapsed.
Now here's the thing. King Louis XVI was an absolute monarch. He had absolutely zero interest in the democratic ideologies of the American rebels, but he funded them anyway. Why? Because bleeding the British Empire restored the global balance of power. This is the ultimate lesson in realpolitik. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You don't have to agree with the proxy force. You just have to use them to systematically weaken an encroaching global hegemony, all without ever provoking a direct kinetic war yourself.
And that leads us perfectly into our final section, Section 5. The sovereign proxy war, and how modern kingdoms fight the digital empire.
Bringing this all together, we can project this exact 18th century French playbook onto modern sovereign kingdoms, like Malaysia. This is how you fight the sovereign proxy war today. Malaysia already nailed step 1 beautifully. They structurally resisted the tech elite by kicking the network school out of Forest City, refusing to be a host for the parasitic empire. But to fully adopt the historical French role, a traditional sovereign state must move to steps 2 and 3. Just as France armed the colonists, modern nations can secretly harbor and fund open source, or FOSS developers, our digital Minutemen. A traditional state doesn't have to agree with the rebel developers' libertarian ideology. They just need to fund their open source tools, the modern equivalent of gunpowder and cannons, to actively bleed the centralizing tech monopolies, all while maintaining their own traditional sovereignty at home.
And the weapons they're funding, they are incredibly sophisticated. Architects like Kyle McLean-Smith are using techniques like acceleration-driven clause learning, or ADCL. To put it simply, ADCL is a mathematical way of cutting through red tape. It takes a massive 10,000-page legal or bureaucratic blockade set up by the tech empire and mathematically collapses it into a simple, 3-step bypass. It's engineering pure legal abundance. This allows developers to weaponize infrastructure and fight back with math and code instead of bullets. If sovereign nations throw their weight behind this kind of auditable peer-to-peer code, they empower a structural escape route that weakens the overarching surveillance state from the inside out without firing a single physical shot.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought for our explainer today. As these invisible systems of control grow, are we drifting into centralized servitude or engineering an auditable escape route? We've seen how a sovereign nation pushed back the creeping overreach of the tech elite, proving that modern geopolitical battles are being fought right now through zoning laws, open source code, and digital infrastructure. But remember, the digital choices you make every single day, the software you use, the systems you rely on, dictate which side of this proxy war you are ultimately funding. Keep questioning the systems being built around you, pay close attention to who is writing the rules, and I will catch you in the next explainer.